Hello and welcome to the big picture. The election schedule for the general elections to the Lok Sabha has been announced. The Election Commission has decided to hold it in 9 phases spread over 8 polling days starting from April 7 to May 12th. Being the largest democratic exercise in the world with over 81 crore listed voters, the task is cut out for the Election Commission. Though admittedly the conduct of the elections in the country have improved over the last 2 decades or so, some of the problems continue to be a cause for concern. The use of money power is one of the factors which continue to challenge the Election Commission. There are several other challenges which the Commission faces in its attempt to conduct free and fair polls. We will discuss today the challenges before the Election Commission and what we can expect in the forthcoming elections. To discuss this, I have with me K.J. Rao, former Secretary of the Election Commission of India, P.D. Shenoy, former Special Secretary, Union Home Ministry, Rahul Verma, Research Officer, Lok Niti at the CSDS, and Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Associate Editor, Frontline, will be joining us soon. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Rao, coming to you first, do you think that there was need for this, 9 phases of polls? Today the Chief Election Commissioner was saying something about it. I'm not calling it phases, I'm calling it polling days. And what is the difference?
No, I think the schedule seems to be all right for a simple reason. It has to be ensured that every polling station has force there because of the way the political movement is there in the country as of date. Earlier it was a 7-phase poll.
Yes.
This time they had to increase the number of phases, taking into consideration the deployment of forces to ensure, and also to ensure that the every booth is covered by the force.
So it is mainly the security concerns which has resulted in this.
Definitely, it has to be taken into consideration. No, but and also the aspects like the Naxalite movement and other things.
Right, but if you see the first phase, which is on April 7, just 6 seats, elections are being held just for 6 seats, 5 seats in Assam, and 1 seat in Tripura.
The thing is, starting they don't require much forces because northeastern states, it takes more time to move the forces from the northeast to the other places. So in that way, perhaps the Commission thought that it is better that first the northeastern states are completed. That is why they have done it like that for
the second phase is in 5 of the northeastern states.
That's right.
Mr. Shenoy, you think that this security concern, moving forces, is it such a big deal?
See, there are some considerations before the Election Commission of India. They hold extensive discussions with the Ministry of Home Affairs about the deployment of central paramilitary forces.
Right.
Now,
is it mainly the CRPF?
Yeah. Respective state governments themselves have their own police force, reserve police force, and home guards.
Right.
They are not. That their strength is not adequate to maintain law and order and peace and smooth conduct of elections. Is there also the concern that local police is not dependent upon, because of the factors of bias and things like that, or is it just the inadequacy of those forces? The police and the election machinery of the state come directly under the Election Commission during the conduct of the polls.
Right.
So even there are cases where the DGPs have been transferred, chief secretaries have been transferred, district magistrates who are returning officers or assistant commissioners or subdivisional officers have been transferred when they have found the Election Commission had apprehension that there was bias.
Right.
Now moving the central paramilitary forces from one part of the country to another part, it takes time and it has to be a smooth operation. Secondly, even within a state, whole state many times has to be split into 2 or 3 phases so that police force from one part of the state can be moved to another part of the state. Now the CRPF, which is known as Chalte Raho Pyare, is a very, very important role it plays. And we have to ensure that they also require some rest in between the 2 phases of poll. They are human beings, they are not machines. So considering all these aspects, I believe, it's my belief that the Election Commission of India has done wisely to spread out the poll. But it has other aspects. What it is, the contestants and the political parties now have to work very hard because they have to work almost.
Exactly. Not and the media. It's very complicated for the media for us to plan elections in this kind of a situation. Mr. Rao, I'll come to Rahul. Before that, Mr. Rao, how much of force is necessary? We're talking of force. I'll let me get Mr. Rao in and
generally,
how much of force is necessary?
Generally, they do not mention the number of units and other things. Common. That is because for various reasons they don't disclose the number of units which have been deployed. So definitely, I do not know that.
You do not, Mr. Shenoy. How much is required? Because see, when you look at the 9 phases of polls, how many? For instance, first phase you have only elections in 6 seats, and then second phase 7 seats, and then third phase 92 seats. Again, fourth phase only 5 seats. This is not very logical. It doesn't look logical.
It's a complex matrix.
Yes.
The polling stations are categorized as sensitive, most sensitive, and normal polling stations. Secondly, polling stations which are affected by Naxalite movement,
right,
anti-social movement, extremists, terrorists, militants, insurgency areas. So all these polling stations are categorized well in advance of the polls. It's not just done on the eve of the polls. And this exercise is done over a period of 6 months in the Home Ministry, and those discussions are continuous.
Between the Home Ministry and the Election Commission.
Yeah, with the officers of the Election Commission. So, olden days, you are aware that booth capturing was a very common phenomenon. Or somebody just opens the polling booth and terrorizes, and all those things even were shown on electronic media. Slowly, some of these things have become things of the past. But they are not moved into the museum of history as that.
As yet. They still, you will still see some, rare cases of
not
these
much,
things.
not much.
Not much, but still happening.
The next issue is that what is the money power playing?
We will come to the money power aspect. Rahul, when you look at this the election schedule, do you see any incongruities in it, or do you agree with the other two panelists?
So both are seasoned players, and KJ Rao was basically looking over one of the most historical elections in Bihar. But I think security is not the only concern. See, elections in India are one of the most gigantic exercises on the planet. 814 million voters. If you even combine North America, Europe, all together, you would never match that size. This time, India is going to have 9,30,000 polling stations.
Right.
Last time in 2009, there were 11 million people were deployed as polling staff, and out of that, 8 million were security personals. Right? So the exercise, 3,000 trains were deployed to move these personnel around. So it's one of the most gigantic exercise, and that's why it needs such an apparatus to conduct these things. For me, security is not the only concerns, because if you look at the schedule, the northeastern states, the conflict, most of the northeastern states are going in 2 phases.
Yes.
Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand are going in only 3 phases, right? So basically 21 states or union territories are being polled on single date.
Right.
It's basically UP and Bihar which are going for 6 phases, and then states like Bengal, which are large states, are taking 4 or 5 phases.
Yes.
So I think the logistical challenge to conduct our exercise at such a scale. Like I remember in 2009, New York Times carried an op-ed, and it said, it's the greatest show on the earth.
Right.
Right? So because it is just a gigantic exercise, the world cannot even imagine.
8 million security personnel.
11 million were deployed last year.
8 million?
Yes.
CRPF has that kind of a force?
CRPF basically, but there are other central forces from where required in the border areas, they are deployed.
Okay. We are now joined in by Venkatesh Ramakrishnan, Associate Editor of the Frontline. Venkatesh, coming to you, you think that that the way the elections schedule has been planned, you think that it's a fair schedule, or do you see any other factors apart from what my two guests in the studio say are basically the security concerns which has resulted in this kind of a stretched schedule?
No, on the face of it, it looks like security concerns are the primary motivating factor. as Verma very clearly pointed out, 21 states are going for polls on a singular phase.
Right.
While you have these two states, with the large states with the highest number of one state with the highest number of Lok Sabha seats, and the other two states with considerable number of seats. They have been kind of clubbed together, and they have been put in a multi-phased situation. I think this looks fair on the face of it.
Okay, Mr. Rao, coming to the challenges. Today, in fact, the Chief Election Commissioner was asked this question: what is the biggest challenge before the Election Commission? And he said money power.
Money power. No
Money
doubt
power is the biggest challenge. Now, to curb this misuse of money power, there have been the last 3 years we have had this expenditure observers and things. How successful have they been?
They are successful means to only I can say 20-25% only, because if you go to the field you will come to know how much money is being spent by the political parties.
Right.
They themselves also they say openly. So the money power is the biggest challenge for the Election Commission. So also distribution of liquor and other things. These are the main. This is the major challenge. It is very difficult for the Election Commission to control that cent percent. For the simple reason, it is for the political parties to come forward and ensure that they are also pillars of the democracy. They should understand and they should try to ensure that the elections are free for that purpose. Money power should not come into the picture.
No,
but anyhow, I can definitely say that since the UP elections, last UP elections, and earlier also, it is improving day by day, and the seizures are increasing day by day the way the observers are deployed. See, there are so many types of observers.
Some 205 crores or 210, 200 odd crores was 215 crores were seized in the last round of elections in this
that will be only 20% of what
you
would
think
have
it's only
been
20%?
20%, I think so. It cannot be more than that, I feel, because the amount is they spend heavily, and they do it in such a way that it is very difficult for the observers and others to catch. They different modes of and carrying the cash and other things they take, and also nowadays money transfers are also they are doing it.
Online transfers.
Online transfers.
Mr. Shenoy, at the Home Ministry, was this a concern at all? The spending of money, the huge misuse of and the black money which is in circulation during elections. Was that any consideration in the Home Ministry? And apart from Home Ministry, you have had varied experiences on the ground, also on the field as an officer and as an IAS officer. Do you see this problem being curbed effectively at any point of time?
There are a few issues which are connected. One is distribution of goodies.
Yes.
They have come down drastically because of the visibility, electronic media especially. But the electronic media cannot go into the houses of everybody from dusk to dawn. So the distribution takes place generally at these hours. And the excise department of different states, what they do is they close the liquor shops. They issue orders for a few days before the poll, and then on the counting day, on the voting day, etc., etc. So what they do is they distribute the sachet, and the sachets are sent at some risk, of course. And if it is stopped somewhere by the police or...
Mr. Shenoy, both of us come from the same state. We have seen this sachet distribution and things like that, I'm sure. I also understand that. But the problem now is hard cash transactions which are taking place. In the last round of elections, in the 2009 elections, even in the last elections, we have seen, votes being sold for cash and 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees per vote. Is there any way in which it can be curbed at all? These expenditure observers, how much can they look at these problems?
Then again, increase in the expenditure limit, that has been rational, because if you look at the inflation, this much increase is acceptable.
We will.
But coming to
Sufficient increase, 75,
You know,
70 lakhs per
from 40 lakhs it has gone up to 70 lakhs.
70 it has
I will
gone
come to
increased.
that. There is some interesting information I have on that. We will come to that. Rahul, so as far as this money power is concerned, how do you look at this? Do you see any rationality in increasing the expenditure limit? One second thing is, what have been your experience in your research as far as the money power is concerned?
So, I completely agree with that. Lots of money is being used in elections and flow of black money. But I disagree with Election Commission's view that increasing it to 70 lakh is very rational. The reason being, in 2014 elections, Election Commission has asked a budget of 3,150 crore rupees. That means Election Commission is going to spend at least 7 crore rupees in a constituency to manage the election, apart from getting CRPF or other personals for free of cost, right? So cost of
but somebody is bearing that cost.
Yeah, but the cost of contesting an election is really, really high in India. So on an average, each Lok Sabha constituency has 1,000 polling stations, right? So even if you deploy 2 workers and pay them the minimum wage of 300 or 400, you are going to spend at least 70 lakh rupees for 14 days, which is the campaign period. I think you need to be rational on thinking about how much a candidate would be spending, right? So raise the limit to that level. Otherwise, you will always have smuggling started because you tried to curb certain
Mr. Rao, what has been the effort of the Election Commission? How do you assess how much a candidate needs?
See, the thing it should have been raised at frequent levels. It has not been done like that for a long period. It was statutory at a particular stage. Only they are going and increasing. So 70 lakhs, you see, taking into consideration the present day, this one, it's okay. 70 lakhs is reasonable. Otherwise, there will be people will say, hey, how can a common man contest an election? 70 lakhs.
That is a very interesting aspect. Actually, one of the chief, Mamata Banerjee,
it has to be control.
Mamata Banerjee openly came out against this hike in the limit, saying that this will discourage people who don't have money to contest elections.
Another thing is, the political party, this is separate for candidate expenditure.
Right.
Besides that, there is no limit for the expenditure incurred by the political party.
Absolutely.
So I think 70 lakhs, it should not be, it is reasonable in the sense slightly.
Do you think that there should be some kind of a limit per candidate for election for the political parties also?
Yes, it must be there.
But that has not been considered as
because
so far.
Political parties, they come together. If any electoral reform is there, they come together and they will say no. So it must be, see, the expenditure in a constituency, that should be tagged, it should be treated as the expenditure, whether it is incurred by the political party or
but there was some move towards that.
That was there, but it is not happening. That is not happening.
Yes,
That's the biggest problem.
Apologies, but I think 70 lakhs, this common man argument doesn't work, right? Even 70 lakh is too much amount for a common man.
That's
right. So, and even if you say we are keeping the limit at 20 lakh or 25 lakh, what would the common man do if 5 other candidates are going to spend 5 crore rupees? Right? So common man
I think you have a
is
point there, but I have something else. I'll come to that before. Let me go to Venkatesh. This money, the use of money power. How do you see that? I mean, you have been covering elections across the country, 70 lakhs, 40 lakhs, 70 lakhs, whatever it is. There are some states. I'm sure you know about it and you've witnessed it and you must have spoken to a lot of people about the kind of expenditure which is involved in it. You think that there is any way in which the money power can be controlled?
No, I think, Girish, the biggest question that we are failing to address in this whole debate, we are confining our discussion to the ceiling, the raising of the ceiling, distribution of goodies like money and liquor and various other things. But there are other kinds of expenditure, not only the expenditure of political parties, but there are other players who are pumping in money into the election scene. Like, for example, the big corporate companies. They are supporting one party or the other, or one leader or the other. See, from whatever I can gather from my political contacts in various states is that some of the most powerful corporate companies have already allocated money for each constituency for different parties. Right. And it runs into crores. So when we look at this issue of money power, we need to look at it comprehensively. We need to look at it from that perspective. I think, that is not, we are not addressing that when we are discussing the issue of ceiling or distribution of goodies.
Right, Mr. Rao, he has a very powerful point there. But let me bring out some ironies which have come out. We're talking of hiking of the ceiling limit, spending limit. But it is very interesting. There is this study by the ADR with 2009 elections, and they say that they went through 400 and odd MPs who were elected in 2009, and none of them have given their election expense which they have spent in 2009 as the maximum which they have spent is 71.1% of the 40 lakhs.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
There are some candidates, there are 2 or 3 candidates who have spent above the limit of the election commission. One of them incidentally was Akhilesh Yadav who got elected to the thing. Now, the fact, the election expenditure which the candidates have shown have not even touched 25 lakhs, 40 lakhs, which was expense limit was 25 lakhs in 2009. They have not even touched majority of 95% of the candidates have not even. They say that we have not spent even 25 lakhs. So why now raise it to 70 lakhs?
Now they will show 65 lakhs or something like that to keep a small margin, because this is just jangling of the figures, nothing more than that. You see, they actually spend much more than that, than what has been declared. In spite of so many observers being there.
Here we have
see, you tell me an expenditure observatory is there, constituency. How many places he will go?
Yes,
it is very difficult.
What is disclosed in the submission of returns and what is disclosed to their confidants is entirely different.
Yes, absolutely.
There is no authentic survey of the expenditure incurred by candidates.
And
one interview.
In all fairness, it varies from constituency to constituency, apart from state to state.
Yeah. The experience has been that many candidates have disclosed to their close friends and relatives.
Some people even on media.
Yeah.
recently one of the candidates, he withdrew a statement later, that's a different matter, but he said it cost 8 crores.
Particularly South, it is on a very Andhra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. They rank 1, 2, 3.
So, this huge variation. Venkatesh, this whole hypocrisy that we accept the expenditure limit of these candidates, and this study by the ADR is a very stark study showing what kind of hypocrisy goes on in declaring their expenses.
No, absolutely, Girish. There is no doubt about that. So, if you go through the campaigns of political parties and powerful candidates, you know very well that there is no way that they are limiting it to the ceiling that has been proclaimed by the Election Commission or set by the Election Commission. So, as I was telling you, there is a lot of other expenditure that comes in from other sources.
I know.
Like in manipulating the local media.
Right.
So various things that are being employed. Paid news
is a huge. Yes, Rahul. Corporate, what Venkatesh was talking about. The corporates now the corporates have always played a role in elections, in funding and things like that. But now it seems to have, their budgets also seems to have, multiplied by many times.
I think Venkatesh has a very strong point. See, limiting campaign finance is a good idea that has gone bad, right? If you raise the limit to 70, as KJ Rao mentioned, it would be like people are going to say 65. So rather than curbing the campaign finance, the goal of the EC should be a transparent election finance, transparent finance of election campaigns, right? So make corporate players or others to pay through checks. So the money that can be traced or verified, rather than basically saying, okay, you can only spend this much money, and they will show you, okay, we spent.
Okay, Mr. Rao, let's move to the other aspect, which Election Commission sometime back came out with this proposal that manifestos they're going to regulate the manifestos. You think it's a viable thing at all? Because they are saying.
Now
freebies being offered by political parties, they have to explain how we are going to finance this. Right. Will it come under the Election Commission's?
No, because they have framed the guidelines. Of course, I have not gone through, to be frank with you, I have not gone through the guidelines which they have framed and incorporated as model code of conduct also.
Yes.
So, but one thing, freebies, you can definitely differentiate between what is a freebie and what is actually social development. For example, if a freebie, you giving a TV, color TV or grinder or anything, that is definitely a freebie. it can be straight away election commission will definitely is going to say, because it should be for some social infrastructure.
Mr. Shenoy, what is your thoughts on that?
The election commission to restrict, they should restrict their plan of action and items they are going to control, supervise and cover. Otherwise, if they have a very big list of
if their agenda increase,
there will be dilution.
Exactly.
Yeah, they will not be. For example, how many observers they are having? Now, each parliamentary constituency, they have very senior officers as observers.
Yes.
But each parliamentary constituency, there are several assembly constituencies.
Yes.
Are you going to appoint observers? Suppose we appoint. Even then there are several other constituencies, local constituencies of local self-government there. It is not possible to have so many observers. Secondly, it will be burdening the local chief electoral officer or local returning officer with this type of work. So, better to choose this we are going to have.
Venkatesh, about this election commission's decision to regulate the manifestos. You think it is a viable thing at all? And there have been pretty strong protests and opposition from the political parties.
No, I think it creates a good debating point. That's all. As Mr. Hegde very rightly pointed out, we should have Mr. Shenoy rightly pointed out, we should have doable parameters. The election commission should have parameters which are doable, which are practical, which are efficient, and which create a difference to the election process, makes it more transparent. I think the election commission has no business to get into deciding or evaluating the manifestos of political parties.
No, this was done under the orders of the Honorable Supreme Court, because they said the freebies are being announced, so you issue some the guidelines. So this is what they have done is that is because of the orders of the Honorable Supreme Court.
I think Supreme Court guidelines were very clear that can you do something about it. Yes. And election commission in its whatever they framed, they said in most countries election manifestos are not regulated and you cannot regulate it. Populism is part of a democracy, right? You cannot, like, this is how parties contest. So probably I think what I find in my research that politicians in India give only half information, right? If Arvind Kejriwal announced some policy or Rahul Gandhi announced some policy or Modi announced some policy, there should be a debate among the political parties.
No, political parties and the media also. Mr. Rao, very quickly, final thing, on the opinion polls issue. The Election Commission doesn't seem to have any control as far as the opinion poll is concerned. Exit polls have been banned, but opinion polls.
Opinion polls, even the Election Commission a decade ago it started, it should be stopped. The opinion polls, they do not give the correct picture, You may say any time, and you have seen the sting operation which has been conducted, and the way the opinion polls, how the results are declared. It is very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate. It is not on a scientific method or any. They don't mention. Surveying 1% or 2% of the electorate.
Mr. Shenoy, quickly, very quickly.
Opinion polls are a welcome thing. They educate, because that is a part of democracy.
Inform.
But one can say opinion polls, just like you stop liquor shops a couple of days before. You stop opinion polls a couple of days before.
It's already being done. Venkatesh, very quick last words to you. This election, do you expect 10 crore more voters in this election, which is quite awesome actually. The 10 crore more voters, which means about 1,80,000. 1.80 lakh more voters in every parliamentary constituency. Do you think that this is going to make a difference in the way we need to look at the way the political parties will be performing?
Certainly, I think what is.
Okay, I think we've lost that track. Very quickly.
Next thing would be banning opinion polls. Next thing will be expressing opinion in the electronic media is banned. Only you should give news.
Two things. One,
very quickly.
One, this time 23 million voters are going to be the new voters, 18 to 19 years range. So they are definitely going to have an impact in the upcoming election. And second point is on opinion polls. I think no democracy can work by banning things.
Okay, I think on that note we need to end. But there are really some big challenges the Election Commission will have to face while holding these elections. 81 crore voters will be are listed, and let us see what will be the percentage of voting. But the challenge before the Election Commission is something which no one can avoid. Thanks to all my guests, Mr. KJ Rao, P.D. Shenoy, Rahul Verma and Venkatesh Ramakrishnan. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on Big Picture same time tomorrow.